Hello, good people from the internet. A-létheia late. Sorry, some issues regarding today's eventualities. It so happens that today's my birthday, and as it happens, we obviously have to do lots of different things at the same time, and one thing makes another thing not coming in the time that we want to. Oh, look at this. Almost. Maybe the first we see possible. Let's see. Okay. Clear line up here. We are live on YouTube and live on Instagram. Hello. Welcome to this live Q&A. Tonight we're having a very interesting topic. It's on purpose. I put it really low for doing the other nonsense. So yeah, we got a little bit of a background. That's good because that allows me to constantly be checking on my own volume. Speaking of, I'm not sure if I'm really good coming out on YouTube now. Yes, then I'm too loud. Yes, then people almost nothing here. This is the ideal sound that I'm supposed to have, and we're working back here. Hello, Mr. Andres. How are you? Enjoy vacation. Welcome. Remember, you got any question, you're free to shoot. Okay. Welcome. This is your house. And for everyone that's here, thank you for coming over. We already have 3 people on YouTube, 2 likes. Thank you, people. You're great. So we got the live that we said that we were going to have, and it was about a topic that was really, really interesting because obviously it's not every day that you get to speak about how we compare um, a hobby that we all have, which is reading comics, different types, be it action comics, manga, or watching anime, etc., etc. You, we have the capacity of enjoying this media, um, seeing this media compared to other different type of areas of thought, and especially when we're speaking about, for example, philosophy, um, real life things, uh, facts of the day to day. Once you do that, you get to really understand how deep it goes, the media that we enjoy in terms of the content that they work. And that question that we have on today's topic about why is it that it's perfect for the regular story that you watch, read, no matter what, be it even Western comics, Western comics, European comics too, they're Western too, most Asian, traditional. In fact, teens have been the predilect population segment chosen to be the representatives of the hero, which in, in itself is heroic because we all know that teens are not necessarily people that are supposed to be ready to do heroic things just yet. So it's quite a lot of pressure for a team to, we all believe that a team is supposed to save the day, save the world, but we all get caught on the story once we see that it is actually a team, a seamless, defenseless team that is supposed to be facing the unsurmountable difficulty that happens to be basically remember whatever is happening in the story that you have. Hello, Mobidu. I don't know who Luis. If you say your name, I'll say hi. I hope that it says hi to you properly. Um, this is the Q&A. You're welcome to ask any question. So continuing what I was saying, then going back to this, the stories that we read, the stories that we watch, we have teens being put exactly in the center of an incredible conflict, and whatever or whomever they have to face this conflict, it is normally an adult. It is normally someone that is uh, the reality of or represents the reality of life. And by representing the reality of life, it represents Lucy. Hi, Lucy. Welcome. If you have any question, you're welcome to ask in the chat. So continue on what I was saying. So that person that is having to deal with such a huge burden or difficulty, uh, an enemy that is apparently unavoidable and apparently conquerable. That person is supposedly capable of dealing with it because blood. Normally, it's because it's of blood when it comes to stories that we read in terms of manga. Hello, sir. How are you, Mr. Amish? I hope that you enjoyed the story that we're trying to tell tonight. So, you think about your best action heroes. I mean, from the classics, you got Dragon Ball, Goku. You got well, classics, Saint Seiya. Hey, from Saint Seiya, we have Seiya from Saint Seiya. You got who else? Famous. Okay. From the 2000s, you got Full Metal Alchemist, and you got the Eldrick Brothers. I mean, in the world of military service and militarized government, you got two teams that are supposed to be officials. Like, come on. That in itself is breaking the idea of what in reality is supposed to be. And that's the part that we always enjoy. Now, obviously, you get to Kimetsu no Yaiba, and you have young Tanjiro, he, right? It has to be the beast that is over hundreds of years old, like really. So the enemy, that huge wall to climb, monstrous thing to be, normally an adult, is its face is contrasted by the naivete, by the innocence that teens are supposed to be represented by, the heroes that you get to enjoy and love. Hi, Anita, welcome, welcome. If you have any question, you're free, you will welcome to shoot. So, continuing on the idea of greatest heroes and greatest situation to face, and at the same time, the reality that we all know that we somehow get distracted of by watching these heroes in action. When we are teens, we all know that we don't have exactly all the tools to face reality. In fact, we have a lot of problems to face our own reality when we are teens. And I'm saying that as a person that is not a teen anymore. Obviously, I just turned 43 years old. And for being my age, and working in the area where I work, I get to face things constantly. It is impossible not to compare the different situations that I see over the years with the different generations of teens that always hit the same years at the end. 12, 13, 15, 16, 17. You see them change. You see them be different, but at the same time, you see them be similar in a way. And it's not really possible for me, having the type of memory I have, to compare it with myself, with my own experiences, and experience of the people that I know that are from that age. So I get to see, and I have also that great feedback from my parents' testimony about their own lives. I get to see these similarities from the perspective of someone that actually, does the same thing, did the same thing in my age. That we are, we enjoy what we watch this team facing these incredible difficulties. We enjoy doing that because we know that it was impossible for us to have done that when we had to face difficult things. And we wish that we could have done that. We wish that we could have had the same attitude, the never surrender attitude, the never give up, the always try to be better than before, the always trying to overcome difficulties no matter what, the always having an answer to whatever problem. You know, that team that plans, that thinks about a way to defeat an enemy that is impossible to defeat in normal ways, just with your pure strength or just with your pure talents. You have to use strategy. You enjoy the thought process that each one of these things face at the time that we are reading. And we definitely have to agree that that train of thought was not that easily reachable when we were teens. And why was that? Well, because when we were teens, we had to deal with many other different things that were so distracting that being that way, ah, not that easy. Hello, sir, Mr. Pedro. Welcome. You're in your house. Remember, questions are in order. Um, so, as a team, that we know that we don't have those skills, that set of skills, like taken, to organize our thoughts in such a way that we are consistent, that every day we have the same idea of what we're going to do, the same resolve in taking actions of the things that we want to do, we want to achieve. When you're a team, some days you're a great student, some other days you don't have that energy. Some days you play football like you are God because I don't know, maybe that day the other guys weren't playing that well and you were the God. And other days you suck. That's normal. But there are other different things that are very true and that we try to hide in the moment that we are teams because that's the moment that we are the most fragile according to what our egos, our personalities represent. So that's one of the motivations of what I wanted to speak about because the topic itself is not read or read. I mean, I have watched different videos in YouTube that somehow try to face the same topic from the same perspective most of the time, in which they refer to the teen as not just the teen, just the plain type of character, as the type of character that you, as the audience, project yourself onto. You simply substitute the face of the character and you think that character is yourself. That's just one part, the part of, everyone can actually think about this. You change yourself with the protagonists, and these protagonists have to be relatable, no matter what. The majority of the time, no matter what you think of the character, but it's a theme and it's a little silly, especially the action hero. It's a little silly. The ones that are smart in many things regarding action, but when it comes to practical, real life things, they sometimes useless. Okay, and that's the typical gags that you get to see in stories that we all love, watch, and read about. So going back to the idea of the team's situation that they have to face, the distraction. We got the hormone situation, right? The hormone situation, it's all about you know, having to deal with the days that sometimes you're more energetic, other times you're not that energetic. So you can try to have a level of intensity, but then you don't have the consistency that that intensity requires. So yeah, you got that situation that is hormonal and it's totally understandable. When you're a teen, sometimes you have too much, and that too much makes you do stupid stuff so easy. You get fooled because you have grown up, and when you have grown up, you begin to see the world from a perspective of consequences way easier compared to what you did as a kid. However, you are still childish enough to lose yourself. You lose yourself on certain moments and certain ways or certain impulses that related to the situations, and that's the other aspect that we wanted to speak about, the inadequacy of ourselves in the group where we are. The group that where we are has so much to do with how we form ourselves. I congratulate those people that had the fortune of growing up with a group of friends that they could rely on, they could really, really trust, they could really consider friends, that they could have shared moments that will be everlasting. And this is something that is so treasurable that you won't believe how much this is really, really important. So I congratulate people that had those moments. And of course, I feel it for you guys, the ones that did not really have that luck. That for some reason your education was not uh, joined or surrounded by the love or companionship that other kids had, and that is also true that could happen. For some people, high school life is terrible because for some people the level of inadequacy is just too high. I mean, the things that they have to face, the distractions that they have to face, are even more than what others have. Let's speak a little bit about this. Um, I could obviously go from my own example, as I know myself better than what I know any of the other people I could actually make reference of. But I will try to make some references. Let's say, as a kid, I used to be the third kid from the line. So obviously not among the tallest kids in the classroom. The third kid on the line was typically, a small kid, not extremely small, but small nonetheless, and the only black one. That one, that particular characteristic made me sometimes an unwanted target. It's not that I suffer heavily bullying, but I did suffer my good deal of bullying all throughout um, elementary and junior high, not so much in high school. But I did have. It was due to many different factors. Um, that I think that I actually understand what it means to being on the side of teams that don't have the good time compared to the other kids that have the good times. Now, I'm not saying I did not have good time, and in fact, I still have friends from back then that actually can be a good evidence of me having great memories. Nonetheless, there are kids that have it even worse, and there are kids that we cannot even speak about this. All kids in general, all adults in general, those that love watching, reading, any type of media that is, related to action. All of us project ourselves on this character, this made up person. Happens to be a teen, happens to have all those tools in that particular age when we did not have any great tool, any great power to really overcome incredible, impossible situations. We all wish to have lived that. And why is that? Well, because we all think, we all fantasize, especially when you are an adult. You all fantasize like, oh man, if I had known about this when I was that age, things would have been totally different. That's a common fantasy. Hello, Ethan. Welcome. Welcome. If you have any question, remember you can shoot. So, again, if you had the opportunity of going traveling back in time and put yourself that thought, like, hey, do this in this moment, it's a great temptation. So much that actually there are a lot of different stories about, you know, that type of police, the people that go back in time to try to catch those people that use the technology of going back in time to try to take advantage of things that didn't do well. So yeah, that's a human thing. Yeah. Being a teen is like the moment in which you have all the opportunities, but if you don't know, you cannot really make it. That is ideology. That's complete ideology. That's not true. People can reach their peak at any age, but you're sold the idea that if you do that at teen age, you are a genius. And it so happens that we have those people. We constantly refer to them, the geniuses that were that big at that age. We have mentioned here the case of Leo Messi. Everybody knew who Leo Messi was when he was 19 already, teen. So we speak about famous cases everywhere. Youngest chess champion, youngest ping pong champion, youngest races, car race pilot, youngest. I'm speaking too much about sports. Let's say, for example, in the area of literature and academics, everybody loves Baudelaire and everybody admires Baudelaire. Why? Because Baudelaire reached Baudelaire status at teenage. So that is a great thing. And I need to make a little pause here. Sorry. Maybe when you speak to uh, Natalie, sorry people, I had a little bit of an issue, technical issues. That happens all the time. I'm really sorry. That happens in a life, we're in life. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, the situation of, sorry, okay, going back to the situation that I was referring to, the thing that we all project ourselves is that individual that does not have the consistency. But the team that we watch on the media that we read has that power, the power of focusing, specifically that power of focusing and really having an idea of what they want. You know, Luffy in One Piece is a guy that wants to be the king of pirates. So it sounds exactly like a team win because that's exactly the moment in which you have those dreams, you have those ideas, and you know that once you alter, you say the words, you say those ideas aloud, you sound childish enough to laugh at yourself. And people that you share those ideas with do the same. Some of them even support you by saying, yeah, of course, you can do that. Hello, sir. Raul, how are you? Welcome. Remember, you got questions. If you have questions, shoot. So, continue on this. Yes, you have that idea of thinking that life is. let's say, multiple places for possibilities. And yet, it's true when you are a team, you got that chance. I mean, the potential is infinite. So, but we don't have the focus. We don't really have the focus once we're teams. When I was a teen, I used to be distracted so easily by any silly thing. And as a teacher now, when I see my students, I see them getting distracted in the same ways that I used to. Different intensity, of course, with different new things that are related to, of course, the technology of back then and the technology of today. But at the same spirit, constantly the same spirit about why and how a team will distract themselves of not doing stuff that is simply just good for them. And that is one of the greatest things that we need to consider. The hero in the story is capable of constantly choosing the best for themselves and for everyone, similar to the Phronimos status in Aristotle, about the individual that is capable of being prudent, choosing the best for themselves as well as everybody around them, as it was the only possibility that was the case of Pericles. Pericles, a character that was perfectly placed to describe the Phronimos idea in Aristotle. And that's not invented by me. That's something that was taught by me, was taught to me by my great teacher Carlos Pavan back in UCB a long time ago. So yes, continuing on this, we know that this individual that is so graceful with the way, the capacity that they have to taking the best decision all the time is someone we wish we had been like that. We wish that at least one of those characteristics have been similar for us. So of course, if you are a team, that is your time. You watch anime, you read manga, webtoon, any type of media like this, and you feel inspired constantly. But you also feel inspired when you're an adult like myself. I do. I feel uh, sometimes elated, like great, like wow, such great thing. I feel hype up. That's something that happens. But at the same time, I'm an adult, and of course, I see that like, oh man, youthful bliss. That is something just possible when you're a teen. That youthful way of seeing life, like things that you can achieve in your dreams so easily, or see achieve them so easily. Resolve it just because yes. Like my students used to say, yes because yes. So we got this situation that we have a projection of sorts of our personalities upon the personalities of these teens, these teen heroes. We sometimes try to be influenced by them, by their attitude, by the way they choose upon things, and resolve the silliest things. And this can be applied to any different aspect. As for instance, obviously we don't, in reality, we don't defeat monsters, we don't fight against monsters or fight the crime, but we, feel inadequate when we have to be in front of people, begin in front of a public audience, in front of the audience of the classroom, or even in front of a podium of an auditorium because you have to make a presentation, or you're in a debate, or because you have to compete with by becoming someone of the student council. Any of the different activities that requires you being in front of a lot of people as a team are activities that normally are quite anxiety inducing themselves. And as such, we wish we had opportunities to, really be that guy, the charismatic type that is capable of, standing in front of everyone without shaking legs or shaking knees, as they say, and saying stuff to people. Hello, is dancing. Hello, Vietnam. I see. Cool. So in front of people and saying your stuff like how it is, saying your thoughts as how it is. You wish you had the grit that that hero has when facing an enemy and telling the enemy like, I'm not gonna do as you want me to, like paraphrasing that song from the Rage Against the Machine, uh, Rage, I guess that was the name of the song, and it was with the famous line, because you do what they touch you. Ta, ta, ta. So yeah, you have that dream of becoming powerful enough, at least in your mind, to be capable of facing stuff like, telling your parents in their face when you don't want to be told off, telling them the reasons why you want to be told off, telling them the reasons why you want to decide on your own on something. For example, choosing on what you want to study, choosing on how you want to dress like, choosing on whatever situation that normally happens in the life of a teen, because we all, people like me, older than me, or teens, have to go through the same things. And we all had that problem that we had too much up here, but we didn't have any power to control stuff. Teens today have the worst situation of the deal because they do have power since technology allows them to being, have access to stuff that, for example, in my age, we didn't even dream of. But they don't have the comprehension or at least the experienced brain to face the consequences of those things that they have access to. So having access to those things at teenage, that's not really grant any type of improvement of our reality. When you have access to stuff that you should have access when you're an adult and you can face the consequences. When you have access to stuff like that at teenage time, most of the cases you don't really appreciate that happened to you when you are a grown up, and you probably are thinking that I'm generalizing, but I'm not. I have my great deal of stuff that I was introduced to too soon. And when I was introduced to Tucson, even though I was raised under really strict environment, that was, I said that in my previous life, in a religious environment, even though I was under those conditions, I still got exposed to stuff that I wish I hadn't. So this is a detail that people need to consider, that teens will have to face stuff. All teens will have to face stuff that will be just too big, just a little bit too big for the tools that you have in order to be capable of filter it and face it. And those things will boost growth, mental growth, because of, you know, emotional trauma. And true, you need a good deal of emotional trauma in order to grow up. But you then start thinking, like I said before, you start thinking back from hindsight and said, ah, man, I wish I had known about this before. I could have done things differently. I could have chosen differently. I could have given a different uh, answer. I could have taken a different route. I could have made a different choice. Knowledge is obviously power, but knowledge can be divided in many different ways. I mean, you got the knowledge of science that will allow you to take decisions based on things that you can measure, as long as you're capable of. taking decisions based on measurement. Then you got that knowledge that's based on, let's say, a contact and your social exposure. That knowledge that it relies on the capacity of you assessing your social environment and assessing yourself in that social environment. And then there is the knowledge of the experience. And the knowledge of experience cannot be cheated. The others, yes, you can cheat all the other knowledges. You can prepare even for all the other knowledges, but experience cannot be cheated. A person that has more experience will definitely have more tools to face stuff. And possibly that's one of the reasons why playing video games is such a cool thing because it seems that you're grinding experience somehow, even though it's quite the controlled environment that you cannot really compare to reality. Still, there are some games that actually really help on preparing your head to face stuff. Like for instance, it happens to be the case for me with learning how to drive. I could say that my best skill at driving, I possibly learned it when I'm playing hours and hours of uh, Need for Speed, and it was not even with a proper joystick that will simulate the driving instinct that you need to have when driving. Now, I don't drive a car just yet, but I know that I have really good instincts when riding on my bike because I really try to go fast when I'm going on the street, and I share my space with cars. And I'm, I think, so far, considered among the prudent type of riders, bike riders, because of my time without accidents. I don't have a lot of accidents. I've had just the three typical ones of lack of experience. Just to conclude on the idea of experience. If you don't have experience, you don't have the capacity, the tools to face stuff. So the superhero, as we have with Hajime no Ippo a few weeks back, with Ippo, the guy that he took the decision of becoming a professional boxer when he hadn't even graduated from high school. That type of determination. If you had that opportunity of being like that, maybe you could, for example, speak to the girl you like, speak to the guy you like, for the girls, or anyone. Speak to that person that you like. You have that opportunity of doing that without the shame that comes with it. And it's so true that any problem that we have in our age, teenage, happens because of shame. Shame that we have of our ways of seeing life, lackings, no matter what. Again, I mentioned the mirror thing. Looking at yourself in the mirror in itself is demolishing because you never are satisfied with what you see. You have an image of yourself, and you have an ideal image of yourself. You wish your face was different. You wish your stomach looked different. You wish your hair looked different. You're constantly shifting positions whenever there is a mirror around because mirrors produce that. Worse for this generation, the fact that you are capable of looking at yourself so often with camera, making my time. You have the mirror thing, yes, the effect of the mirror thing, but just that. Looking at yourself in cameras, constantly video, that was not something that you did all the time. If you had access to the equipment, yes, but then again, it was not that often because even by the time in which you recorded on tape, you needed to have tape. Right now, everything is digital. You can have tons of footage of yourself if you want to. Oh, who wants to? Anyway, going back to the topic. When we're speaking about this idea of you projecting yourself on the protagonist of a story, we always refer to, you know, those chances that these characters have on every different endeavor, not just simply by fighting monsters or being uh, justice. It's just something stronger than that. Pero says, "Oh, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you for the feedback." All right, so I think I'm not gonna have the other background. I had the music for the background noise that I had before, and I couldn't really hide it, so I used the noise for that. But thank you guys, thank you for telling me. So continuing what I was saying, eh, when we project ourselves on the images of the heroes, we even sometimes well, obviously we suffer with the struggles that the hero has to face through their adventures, and we sometimes even make judgment. The things that the hero has to face because we grow up with the hero as the hero is supposed to grow up. Obviously, that's some of the reasons why, of course, we favor some stories more than others because there needs to be some sort of character growth. If there isn't any character growth, we just simply give up on the story. We all know what type of stories we're speaking about. The great stories, we always see that there is development in everything. When there is none, there's lack of quality. And the best stories even get criticized by some lack of development, as it happened the other day that we were speaking about One Piece and that issue that One Piece had about not want, Ichiro Oda not wanting to kill off some people, some of the characters. He said it. He never really wanted to kill off the characters. He wanted to have more characters in, not out. But anyway, character, author choice is something that we all need to respect. And speaking about the heroes, as it was in the case of One Piece, all the way to Saint Seiya, that individual normally had to face stuff that we presume that since we are capable of seeing it from the outside, we assume that we're capable of, seeing it better, and maybe even judging by saying like, "Oh, stupid, you should have done that," or "Do this better," or "Now how are you gonna resolve that?" We sometimes have been put in positions like this. Sometimes. Now, when that happens, what can we do? Uh, I mean, we cannot really intervene in the hero situation. Why is it that we are not capable of doing the same thing with our own lives? Why is it so hard to really intervene in our own problems? Like, I can tell you one case of inadequacy. You like this girl, you had this crush, and you don't have ideas of how to behave in front of that person. Sometimes you're cold just because you don't dare to speak to that person. Other times you're extremely intrusive just because you don't know how to shut up. And in every case, you simply just see that you're breaking the bridge. You're making yourself more distant and isolating yourself more and more and more to the person that you have a crush with. And of course, you say, "What's going on? What am I doing? Why am I sabotaging myself that much?" That happens to all people, to all people. Because every person, when you are a teen, you become self conscious. You become so aware of yourself, so aware of your limitations, so aware of your uh, the aspects of you that you don't like, that when you're reminded of those things, you don't react well. Such is the case that if you don't grow up well, what I mean by this is if you don't happen to go through a process of maturing your brain through experiences of this, experience of social failure like this, when you are a grown up, you behave childish in situations in which people remind you of stuff of you that possibly you don't like of yourself. That is the definition proper of, in Slavoj Žižek's terms, um, symbolic castration. When you're a teen, you're constantly suffering of symbolic castration. What is symbolic castration? Symbolic castration is simply the fact that you are recognized by others by something that you don't want to recognize yourself with. Example, whatever stuff that embarrasses you. If it embarrasses you, you don't want to be recognized by the stuff that embarrasses you. Let's say that you are embarrassed by the color of your hair and people call you, hey, redhead, or blackhead, or whitehead, or baldhead, or etc., etc., etc. Whatever comment people make upon that thing that make you feel insecure will definitely trigger a bunch of awful reactions in yourself. However, without experimenting this, you're not capable of developing the correct tools to deal with it, because one day or another you're gonna have to deal with it. So you make sure that people learn to respect you and stop teasing you with this stuff. In order to gain the grit, not to say the goals, in order to get the stuff, the capacity of, being capable of facing stuff like this, the standing for yourself and say, look, this is not the way I want to be treated. I prefer to be treated this way on the other way. In order to do that, you need to go through these particular awful experiences, because it's kind of like a virus. In order to develop antivirus, you need somehow to get sick, or at least get a vaccine, which is pretty much get sick at the same time. When you are uh, in a situation in which you face stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable, a great attitude to have is simply just, be grateful that you're gaining that experience, that you are saying, all right, I have it now. I didn't have it, but now I have it. I already had this experience. Now I know a possibility of what can happen. That in itself should leave you with some level of comfort, emotional comfort, that will give you holds of ways to consider, of things that you can say in such a situation, or simply just how to act. Now, beyond that, the most important thing is simply just the fact of being a teen is also a bless, because you don't know, and you can be open to receive stuff as open as a teen can be. That in itself is great, because that allows you to not have, let's say, prejudice. And believe me, prejudice is not good in general. Prejudice is not good. You obviously need to have certain level of knowledge, pre-knowledge of certain type of concepts, a series of concepts that you know before you know them, because you are somehow predisposed from many different ways to have known about these concepts. That is true. And what I mean by this is, like an example, that some teams are more capable of dealing with money than other teams. And you possibly say, why? Some teams are more capable of dealing with money than others. Well, because some teams grow up in environments in which money is handled in a responsible way. And those teams have that example so grinded, so wired to their consciousness, that they tend to take decisions that are based on what they have known and learned. And of course, those decisions are more than often accurate, successful, compared to teens that live in environments in which money is not well handled. So that's just one example compared to many others. As it so happens, let's see, you got teens that are more self-assured and certain of self-assertive, that you obviously have a capacity of, let's say, these teens that have so much charisma, right? So much charisma that they're capable of saying stuff, the first thing that comes to their mind. And many others simply just envy them because I mean, the majority of teens are, I was, shy. And when you're shy, you just simply, things don't come out the way you want to. And sometimes you mess stuff that shouldn't have been messed, or simply just make a mess of yourself in situations that otherwise could have been, less uncomfortable. That happens to every person. So of course, that escape route that we see, that escape example that we see on the characters that we admire in the media that we consume is totally justifiable. That is something that we can have resonance with. So in reality, that will be my interpretation, our interpretation of how is it that teens and characters of action media are connected. You all have the capacity of, developing stuff that you see over there, but you need to see certain different things and need to consider certain different things that are necessary for you to be capable of acquiring that experience. The experience, you definitely need it. Once you have it, you will cure yourself for not knowing because you need to. Now, good thing is read a lot about it. But let's do this, people. As this is a Q&A, we say questions. This is the time for questions, all right? We're gonna be opening questions on anything that we have said already, or simply just stuff that you want to know about. Be it as it may, the references of comics, other comics that we have referred to, and the reference to the topic that we developed, which is this, teenage inadequacy. So, anyway, shoot. We have Pedro, Raul, Andres. We got Mr. Amish, with Miss Anit, no, Mr. Ethan. Come on, people. Whomever wants to go on the first question, we're here to serve on the idea of the topic of what the Q&A is. In the meantime, I would say that I've been reading quite a lot of stories. I always read a lot of different stories, and I got teens, friends at work that constantly are asking me about what stories I could recommend. We have to do one of those, one of recommendations too. Okay, we got Pedro. Jose. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's Jose Andres. I always said Andres, but it's Jose Andres. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you. Pedro, let's begin with you. Ask a question. Ask out. What do you think about the topic we were speaking about? Teens being the people that the way we are and how we project ourselves on the heroes that we read about. Let's see. I got still some people on YouTube there, and some people here on Instagram too. That was mentioning just before that it was time basically for me to do another one of recommendations of stories because I've been reading so much. And you probably say, "Yeah, but how do you have time to read so much?" That's one of the things my wife normally asks. How do I have time to read so much in terms of comics? So many different comics. I'm constantly uh, discovering new ones. Sometimes old, but mostly new ones that are really, jewels. That obviously that rest time of other different things I could do in my free time, like watch TV. I don't really have time to watch TV. There's a lot of different, lots of shows that I haven't really watched, and many people know about, and I make an effort to watch one at a time, but it's forever for me to watch a season. Anyway, come on, people, ask out questions. any question that you have regarding the topic or anything in general. We speaking about the club. We're having openings for new hours on weekends for the Speak Up Club. So people, we got a group that is forming in the morning, Saturday mornings, really early, in fact, at 8 in the morning. And the topics that we work are related to the things that we have spoken about, for example, today. Other different topics in other different lives that we've had. And obviously, in those moments, we work our ways to, being capable of having the capacity of, expressing ideas that are supposed to be this level, supposed to have this level of complexity. Let's see. Um, Speaking about the comics, I recommended today. A student asked me about one of the ones that I was reading that really caught my eye, and I recommended one that apparently is like a shared universe. It's a webtoon, obviously, and a lot of webtoons are coming now with shared universes. This one is called Manager King. Man, Manager King. What a great story for teens. What a great story. I recommend you watch it. It's too violent for being a teen, but at the same time, you guys play video games that are extremely violent. So come on, who am I to say that it's too violent? It doesn't really have that much violence. I mean, there's people that die, but you don't see gore per se. It's not really that type of story that shows gore, but it shows that big level of violence because of the topic. We're speaking about mafia, kidnapping, bullying, extreme bullying. We're speaking about uh, corruption, police corruption, um, uh, let's say secret organizations, not necessarily, but yes, secret agencies of government organizations, etc., etc. This show has all the different things that you want to have in a story that is based on, for example, let's say action, simply just action because of action. It's deep when it comes to some conclusions that you reach throughout the story. It's fast paced because it doesn't really build, it doesn't use the episodes as build up simply. It's like every build up episode is actually an action that is relevant to the next action, and there's always action happening. There's, I don't think that I read any single episode that was simply just wording. There was always action, and as there's always action, there's not much like thickness in terms of a text. You need to understand that because sometimes some people don't like to read thick texts. I mean, that's what happens with Hunter x Hunter. Lots of people don't like reading Hunter x Hunter because of the size of the text. I mean, I love it. I love Hunter x Hunter, but I knew that reading Hunter x Hunter required of you wanting to read text because that's what's gonna happen with that type of story. Same as Berserk, same as what else that is thick on text. Well, Full Metal that we mentioned before. So yeah, let's see. The aspect that we did mention inadequacy is we mentioned the idea of being insecure in front of people, insecure in front of your crush, and how about insecure in front of your own expectations? Teens have a level of expectations that is high, but is not comparable to the same high that adults normally have. As I mean, adults will have the experience of having failed so many different times. They have the chance of limiting themselves generally, limiting themselves to, you know, not doing certain things certain way because they know if they do, they're gonna mess up. For example, they're not gonna be able to complete, they're not gonna be able to pull off, etc., etc., etc. The opposite thing is true when you are a teen, you don't know. And of course, you take a lot of risks if you have at least the grit to. Or you never really take the risk, and that's a shame. So basically, your expectations play a huge one when it comes to a level of distraction. Finally, we got Pedro with a comment there to complete the idea. When it comes to the distraction, it is important that we have patience basically with ourselves because it's the same that I mentioned. Everybody has to go through the same thing. So everybody feels inadequate when thinking about your own potential, your own potential. So Pedro says people tend to see themselves through and sometimes even based off their personalities around these fictional characters. As an author, should you restrain your writing worried that someone might, I know where you're going now, someone might do something bad, terrible, awful. Someone like, killing themselves by, risking themselves of doing something awful. Well, this is the situation that happens with fiction in general. That happened to the first writers of Superman. Kids actually attempted jumping from buildings with a, a towel or a piece of cloth, a mantle cloth, etc., around their necks as ways for them to imitate the way in which Superman used to fly. So it was so innocent to say that this person, only this person is capable of flying. Why is it that people are attempting to fly? The phone numbers. So many people call the number that people used to give as, oh, this is my number, 5 3 whatever, whatever. That's the reason why now when you see a number, it's normally a fake number, like 555 115 555. Fake numbers, and sometimes people still call those numbers, get the wrong idea and do something bad because of it. And what do you think about these series like Dahmer and whatnot that portray such terrible things? Yeah, I know. Look, you guys have those series. We had our deal of the same bad thing back when we were kids. Obviously, in the past, the distinction of the classification, age classification of the show used to matter because depending on the age classification, you had access or not. But at the very end, you simply had to want to watch or read whatever you wanted to watch or read to really, get your way around the class limitations. Today, I don't think that kids today have any limitation, and because internet is just extremely easily for you to get access to whatever. So the exposure that things have is a little bit too much. And even though that exposure is supposed to prepare somehow the brain to receive a little or some type of stimulation, reality is not the same. Reality is way different than that. And that was the case that was reported by David Zimbardo with how teens relate to other people after really playing video games for so long. And one of the things that happens is that teens become less empathic. The way in which they measure time, for instance, is awful. They don't have patience for anyone. If they don't have patience for their computer rebooting, imagine for anyone whatsoever. And as that happens, They become less tolerant with anyone that is or has difficulties. And that in itself makes society not very good, potentially speaking. But you see, that is an effect that happens. It's a proven effect that happens when you play video games for many hours for all your life. And the reason for that is because of the level of interaction that you have when you play video games in which you can control the person. When you don't play video games, you cannot control the person, and of course, as such, it is irritating for you to deal with people that have their own agency, and as they do, you cannot really move them or make them do or say what you want them to do or say. So shouldn't they do something about this? That's a very interesting question. Um, there are too many different interests of things when behind the media that you watch, and those interests can be sometimes even nocive, toxic. However, the author themselves not necessarily have to be like that, toxic or nocive, looking for ways in which they try to hurt people in general. In reality, the majority of the stories that you get published in big houses are stories that have some type of value behind the good ones. I mean, obviously, I haven't read every single story, and I'm sure there must be a lot of crap. But normally, there is a type of value behind the idea of a hero because heroicism in itself is granted on values and ideals. You cannot really do heroicism if you don't consider stuff that works, the effort and the sacrifice that you do once you face something awful in order to save someone, yourself, even. And that is basically what you can see constantly in action media. Heroes facing difficulties because they want to save, they want to get better so they can save, they want to protect, they want to destroy something so they can save, they want to rescue something because they can save, etc., etc., etc. So a lot had to do with this. I will not say that is 100%, but a lot had to do with this. And continuing on that idea, that patience that you need to have with yourself is, how would you say, is essential. It's essential that you're capable of accepting the difficulty of being yourself. Like that song from Sound Slave, no, Audio Slave. Be yourself is all that you can do. So be yourself, but at the same time, learn how to be yourself. Learn how to project yourself. Learn that if you're a team, all the other teams are in the same package that you are. They have the same limitations that you are, some more than others. We spoke about that also, that some have it easier comparing to the conditions, but every team has the same problems. The process that you go through, or the combination of processes that you have to go through for your transition between a kid and an adult, that transition is traumatic, to say the least. Well, I think we made a great time tonight. 1 hour and nine. I think this is one of the longest that I ever had. My God, people, you're great. Um, if anyone wants to ask a question just before we get to be disconnecting, I will be capable of trying to answer. But if not, I think that we managed to make with everything we wanted to say about the topic in terms of stories that we use as references, we're possibly gonna be commenting on them too. With that other live that is coming, um, we will be announcing it, of course. That is going to be another chapter of recommendations. As I mentioned, I've been reading a lot, so I've been having quite a lot of different titles under my belt that might be interesting for this type of audience that we have. With that said, people, remember we got the club for those that want to practice, for those that want to master, for those that want to study without really putting themselves to study, just simply by chatting, speaking. That's what it means, not chatting, but speaking. With other people that are interested in getting better, as well as with a trainer that is going to coach you the way in which you can, put it in practice but the corrections plus suggestions. You can even see the results better. We are going to be launching soon new marketing strategy post via Instagram and via possibly, I think, Facebook, in which we will be announcing the what else that we're offering. Obviously, we got the modules training for people that are interested in getting better in grammar. We have the social, no, sorry, we got other different models coming. We have the kids, for example, for those that are interested in that. And we got the club, the speaker club, for those that want to master their speech level. Simply just master the speech level. A space where you can communicate and learn through communication. Well, people, that's it for me. We are so happy that we had you tonight. Um, well, we're sorry we have to go. But at the same time, we're looking forward to have you next week. Though this audience, you guys know the Q&A is every other week. So we have 2 weeks from now on. Okay? That will be the recommendation day. All right, people. Thank you for attending tonight. Thank you people on Instagram. Thank you people on YouTube. Thank you for your patience and thank you for your support. Have a great weekend. And I'm about to go enjoy my birthday. Bye bye, people. So this one, yes. And this one, bye bye, people. Good luck.